Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to begin a new series. This is going to be the Redstone basics. We are going to talk about the basics of Redstone, and I'm going to teach you how to do Redstone. So today we are going to cover 4 different components or Redstone components and show them what they can do and how they interact. So first of all, we have the redstone dust. Almost every redstone machine uses this. It can um, it can connect with other redstone dust, as you can see. So, and this is a power source. Power source emits power, and when you place it next to the redstone dust emits that power. And as you can see on the right here, you can see power 15. If you go one down, it's power 14, then power 13 and 12. So every time the wire gets past one time, the power gets lower, and you can see that by the color. So right about here is where the power gets 0, and now it doesn't emit light anymore, or doesn't emit a signal anymore. But as you can see here, it does. So that's the redstone dust. You can power it by putting a power source next to it or above it. For example, the redstone block, you can put it above it and it will power it. And also the lever and other power sources. We will talk about power sources in a different episode. So now we got the repeater. The repeater is pretty simple. It gets power from one end. So as you can see, the power can only go through this end and not this end. As you can see, I flip the lever, but the repeater does get powered. So you can only power it from this side, and it emits power only to this side. So for example, if you have redstone here, you can see it only triggers this redstone and not this redstone. And you can also put delays. So in redstone you have ticks. Redstone going from one redstone to another is 0 ticks. And this repeater is 1 tick, this is 2 ticks, this is 3 ticks, and this is 4 ticks. 20 ticks is 1 second in real life. So if you want a timer that runs every second, you can do 5 repeaters with 4 ticks and then 1, and then the redstone does get powered. So that's a 20 tick delay. So yeah, that's the repeater. You can also do a different thing with repeater. You can this doesn't get used a lot, but it can be very useful. If you power a repeater and then power a repeater that goes into that repeater like this, it locks the repeater. And now when you remove the power from this one, it can still emit power. And then when you remove this one, it doesn't. So this is pretty useful. You can also lock unlit repeaters and then they can't emit power anymore. So yeah, that's pretty useful, but it does get used a lot. So now we are going to move on to the redstone torch. This has interesting properties, like it's always lit, but when you power it, it doesn't get lit. So you can make things like redstone torch towers. That's the easiest way to bring power to the top. Like this redstone dust, you can power this at the bottom, and then the redstone dust gets turned on. But you can add one more torch, and now every time it gets power, it turns off and it is on constantly. So that depends on the amount of redstone torches you use. So redstone torches can power things next to them. They can also power things above them, but not under them. And some power sources can, like this lever here, it can power this bottom block and then power the redstone dust. And it can also power redstone dust under here, like this. A redstone torch cannot. So if you place a redstone torch on here, it won't power the redstone, but they're both power sources. Every power source has something different to them. So as you can see, this power source, you can get a redstone dust from it, and you can point it into a repeater and set ticks to it. And every time you power a redstone torch, so for example like this, like this, it takes 1 tick to respond. So if you get power from the redstone lever to the block, that's 0 ticks, and from the block to the redstone torch is 1 tick. So you have to deal with the delay. So for example, here we have a useless switch because the repeater emits power here that goes through the repeater, that goes through redstone dust, and it takes 1 tick. And then if you power the repeater or you power the lever, this takes 1 tick to go off, and this takes 1 tick to go on, and then the power won't go out. So for example, if you have this on 2 ticks, there would be a slight delay here where the redstone torch has already turned off, but the redstone repeater took 2 ticks to turn it back on. So yeah, that is the redstone torch. It's a pretty cool block. You can use it for tons of things. And now we're going to talk about the lever. The lever is pretty simple. It can power blocks all around it except on top of it. So it's sort of the redstone torch, but then the opposite, because the redstone torch can power things above them, but not under them. If you place them on a wall, it's always to the top, and down is to power it. So if you flick a lever, it emits power of a power signal 15, as almost all redstone power sources. So you can flick it and then it gets powered, and you can unflick it and the redstone dust doesn't get powered. So it's a pretty simple redstone power source. And here I've got some examples of circuits you can make with these 4 things. This circuit is a pretty simple clock. So what happens if you unflick this lever? The redstone block or the block doesn't get powered. So the redstone torch gets unpowered or gets powered, and then it emits its redstone power through this block. This redstone torch will depower, that will depower this and depower this, and then it powers this, and 4 ticks later it will power this and it will depower this, and then it's back to normal, and then the same thing will happen again, and it's a quick little clock. So now I am giving you a task. Write down in the comments how many ticks this clock is. So this clock is 1 tick because you're basically counting the repeaters and the redstone torches. So you have 1 tick to turn that on. You have 2 ticks to turn that off. You have 3 ticks for this repeater. Then you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because this is 4 ticks. And then you have 9. But this one we've already counted, so it's 8. So this is an 8-tick clock. As you can see, yeah, it's pretty hard to determine how many ticks it is when it's running. But we also have a different machine here. If you power the if you power the lever, the redstone dust gets powered. It emits its power through this block and depowers this redstone torch. That takes 1 tick, and then 4 ticks after the repeater gets powered. It powers the redstone dust again. So this is basically, if you flick the lever, you get 3 ticks of delay, and you can choose. If you have a repeater like that, you won't get any delay. If you have 2 ticks, you'll get a 1 tick delay. So that creates a 1 pulse tick, but it actually, pistons, if they get a 1 pulse tick, they spit out their blocks. But in this case, it doesn't work. And we're going to talk about that in a different episode, because you have to admit the 1 tick is really wonky with blocks, because if you power a 1 tick through a block and then get it from the other side, it won't work. So for example, this is a 1 tick generator, like this. So the repeater will power the block, then it will power the piston, but before it powers the piston, it will power this repeater, and you will get a 1 tick like this, and it will spit out this block. But that is because the repeater is facing in the piston directly. So if you would place the repeater into a redstone torch and then try and spit out these blocks, it won't work, as you can see, because the 1 tick just doesn't work with the redstone torch as you would think it would. So that is the first episode of Redstone Basics. I hope you can show your support on this series, and I'll maybe continue. It depends on if you like it. And then next episode we will talk about the redstone block, the piston, and the comparator right here. And probably also the other piston. This is a sticky piston, this is a normal piston. So yeah, I hope you'll be there at the second episode, and like the video if you liked, and if you really liked, please consider subscribing for more content like this, and give your feedback in the comments of how I should do this series, or if you like it. So check out my Patreon, the link is in the description, and I'll see you later. Bye.